$1,000 car repair can ruin your month. $1,000 vacation can feel irresponsible. $1,000 flight upgrade can feel ridiculous. And to someone else, $1,000 can disappear from their day without them even noticing. Same money, same $1,000. So what changed? Let's take Zeke through 6 completely different versions of his life, from almost nothing to $100 million. Same man, same $1,000. Completely different meaning. Zeke is driving to work when his car starts making a noise. He turns the radio down, listens, and keeps driving. 3 days later, the noise is worse, so he finally takes it to a mechanic. The mechanic comes back with the estimate, about $1,000. Zeke doesn't answer immediately. He opens his banking app, $1,180. Technically, he can pay for the repair, but rent is due next week. His credit card payment is coming. The refrigerator is almost empty. And he still needs enough gas to get to work. Suddenly, a broken car isn't just a broken car. It's 5 other problems waiting behind it. So Zeke asks the question people ask when they technically have the money, but can't really afford to lose it. Can it wait? And that feeling follows him everywhere. At the gas station, he doesn't fill the tank. $20 is enough for now. At the grocery store, he compares 2 nearly identical products to save $3. He wants to order dinner, sees $38 at checkout, and closes the app. At this level, prices don't just tell Zeke what something costs. They tell him what else he might have to give up. $1,000 doesn't buy luxury. It buys breathing room. But eventually, Zeke builds some of that breathing room himself. And the next time life hands him a $1,000 problem, there isn't $1,180 behind it. There's $10,000. Same mechanic, same bad news. About $1,000. Zeke still hates hearing it, but this time he doesn't ask if it can wait. Okay, fix it. The repair didn't get cheaper. Zeke just became harder to knock over, but $1,000 still matters, a lot. Because when your net worth is $10,000, spending $1,000 means watching 10% of everything you've built disappear. So when Zeke's laptop dies and the replacement he wants costs $999, he doesn't immediately buy it. He watches reviews, checks 3 different websites, leaves it in his cart, comes back the next morning. Maybe it'll go on sale. At dinner, he notices the $54 steak before he notices the steak. An Uber costs $47. Maybe the train isn't so bad. He can afford these things now. That's what's different. But he still feels every expensive decision. At $0, $1,000 was a crisis. At $10,000, it's a choice. And as Zeke keeps building wealth, the question slowly changes. It stops being, can I pay for this? And becomes, what am I giving up just to save the money? Zeke is booking a flight. Option 1, $410. One connection, 6 hours. Option 2, $620. Direct, 3 hours. A few years ago, this decision would have taken seconds. Save the $210, obviously. But now Zeke stares at the screen. 3 extra hours to save $210. And he clicks the direct flight. That's the change at this level. Zeke hasn't stopped caring about money. He's started noticing the cost of things that aren't money. Time, stress, convenience. At the grocery store, he still sees the prices. He just doesn't calculate the running total in his head anymore. His phone breaks, he replaces it. The mechanic says, $1,000? Okay. It's annoying, but Tuesday is still Tuesday. His rent gets paid. Dinner doesn't change. The rest of the month continues normally. At this level, $1,000 has lost its ability to reorganize Zeke's life. And once that happens, money starts buying something Zeke couldn't afford before. Not nicer things, an easier day. By the time Zeke reaches $1 million, $1,000 still isn't nothing, but its job has changed. Saturday morning arrives. The house needs cleaning. Zeke could spend 4 hours doing it himself, or pay someone and take his family out for the day. He pays. At the airport, cheaper parking means a shuttle, luggage, waiting, and another 20 minutes. He parks close. A hotel 40 minutes from where he needs to be is $350 cheaper. He books the one 5 minutes away. The early flight saves $300, but it leaves at 6:10 in the morning. He takes the later one. None of this looks particularly rich. No Ferrari, no mansion, no champagne on a yacht. But something much more important has changed inside Zeke's ordinary Tuesday. There are fewer things he has to do simply because they're cheaper. Earlier in his life, Zeke spent his time to protect his money. Now he's increasingly willing to spend money to protect his time. And once that becomes normal, the next jump in wealth doesn't just make life more comfortable, it starts making certain annoyances disappear completely. Zeke's flight is canceled. Everyone gets up. A line starts forming at the service desk. 50 people are suddenly staring at their phones, searching for options. Zeke checks the next flight. There's a seat. $914. Years ago, $914 could have changed his month. Now he taps book and walks away from the line. His phone breaks while he's traveling. Replace it. The hotel room is terrible. Move. Something breaks at home. Someone gets called. The car needs new tires. Zeke doesn't spend 2 hours comparing 12 websites to save $140. And that's where wealth starts looking very different from the outside than it feels from the inside. Zeke isn't necessarily filling his house with more stuff. He's filling his day with fewer inconveniences. At $0, a $1,000 problem could create 5 more problems. Now, $1,000 is often what prevents a small problem from becoming part of his day at all. But there's still one final transformation, because eventually $1,000 doesn't just stop being painful. It almost stops being a financial decision. Zeke is having dinner. The bill arrives, $1,000. Think about what that number meant at every other point in his life. At 0, it was almost his entire bank account. At $10,000, it was 10% of everything he'd built. At $100,000, it was expensive. At $1 million, it was noticeable. Now, financially, it's almost noise. And you can see that change in the smallest parts of Zeke's day. He doesn't choose a hotel because it's $300 cheaper. He chooses based on where he wants to wake up. He doesn't choose a flight because it's the cheapest. He chooses based on when he wants to arrive. At a restaurant, he reads the descriptions before the prices. Something breaks at home, and there's a good chance someone else deals with it before it ever becomes his problem. But here's where people get wealth wrong. Zeke might still refuse to spend $1,000 on something he thinks is stupid. Not because he can't afford it, because price and value are no longer the same question. And then, one day, his car makes a familiar noise. He takes it in. The mechanic looks at it. About $1,000. Same sentence, same number. Zeke barely reacts. Okay, and goes back to what he was doing. The repair never got cheaper. It just stopped being important. Ending the mechanic, the grocery store, the airport, the restaurant, the hotel, the number was always the same, $1,000. At first it could decide whether Zeke paid rent. Then it became a difficult choice, then convenience, then time, then a way to make inconvenience disappear, and eventually, sometimes, barely a decision at all. That's one of the quietest ways wealth changes everyday life. Not the mansion, not the Ferrari, not the things everyone else can see. It's the hundreds of tiny calculations you slowly stop having to make. The $1,000 never changed. Zeke's relationship with it did.